Acolyte, a Tombstone fanfiction written by Epi Cat, read by Jukebox Draws. Chapter 5. When Doc slowly returned to consciousness, he was only mildly surprised he was able to wake up at all. He very vividly remembered the devil's warning of no more chances, and judging by the mattress beneath him, someone had picked him up out of the sand out of pity. Shifting a little forced a creaking groan out of him. While he felt better than he last remembered, everything still hurt. Somehow even his bones ached. Though he had to be grateful for the lack of stabbing pains. Seemed the devil hadn't lied about life-threatening injuries, or else he'd have drowned in his own blood by now. His ribs were definitely tender, but they held, and the wound on his thigh only throbbed a little when he thought about it for too long. After taking several minutes to gather his bearings, he finally opened his eyes, only to close them again. Bewildered, he reopened them, and he was still in he and Wyatt's room. "My luck continues to provide," he murmured, slightly amazed, taking in the familiar details of their room with a sharp rush of fondness. The horseshoe above the door, the ace nailed under the window, something Doc did to give Wyatt a bit of extra luck on his night watches. It became a bit of a running joke, since there was now a jester card pinned up on Doc's side of the wardrobe, courtesy of Wyatt. Thoughts of Wyatt left him frowning, because where was the man? Straining his ears, he managed to catch the low murmur of the man's voice, along with a few others across the house in the kitchen. Certainly he didn't have the energy to yell. He just folded his hands over his stomach, carefully, and closed his eyes to wait. He managed to doze after a little while, the voices in the other room settling him and keeping him from thinking he was still tied to that chair. He was a little grateful, though, when he heard approaching footsteps before he could fall back asleep. He wasn't sure how long he'd been asleep, but he could hazard a guess to say a while. Judging by the weight of the step, he figured it to be Wyatt. A small smile crept onto his face, and he forced his eyes to open once more when he heard the door creak open. Stepping inside, Wyatt was so focused on being quiet, he didn't even notice Doc was awake until the door clicked shut behind him. "Howdy," Doc greeted, grimacing at how awful his voice sounded. "John," Wyatt breathed, frozen in place by the door. Doc quirked an amused eyebrow. "You must be worried if you're calling me by my Christian name." Wyatt's voice shuddered a little, but it seemed to finally break the spell he'd fallen under. He sat himself on the bed beside Doc, grabbing his hand in what Doc suspected was a practiced motion. "I was worried, you damn fool," Wyatt muttered, looking down at the bedspread instead of Doc. "Gone 5 days without a trace. Kate did her card thing, and all it said was that you were being hurt, and I could do nothing about it. Then I'm heading home, and I see your sorry self laying in the sand bleeding out." He glanced up at Doc, the other man sighed, shoulders slumping forward. "I truly am sorry to have worried you, darling," Doc murmured, squeezing the hand still holding his. "But I did not honestly intend for any of this to happen. I thought it was a normal summoning, and by the time things went sour, it was too late to leave." Wyatt sighed again, quieter this time. "I know." He stared down at their joined hands. "You died, didn't you?" Gnawing on his lip, he tried to figure out a way to answer that. "What makes you think that?" Wyatt stared at him out of the corner of his eye, a bemused smile on his face. "The injuries you showed up with were not near bad enough for the reaction you were having." Doc hummed. "Yes, I suppose I did. Had another unfortunate meeting with my least favorite boss, but I can't rightly be too mad. He did help me get out of the clutches of my captors." Face darkening in barely contained fury, Wyatt twisted to look at Doc full on. "You killed him, right? 'Cause if not, you better give me a location so that they're taken care of," he growled, hand tightening around Doc's, though not tight enough for him to issue a warning. An evil smile formed on Doc's face, teeth on display, where, just before he collapsed in the sand, had been covered in blood. "Oh, they are dead, that is certain. I'm afraid if I gave you a location, you'd only find rotten corpses torn apart." The relief and disappointment both were obvious on Wyatt's face, but he only nodded. Enjoying the silence with Wyatt and reveling in the fact that he had another chance to enjoy such simple pleasures, He allowed himself to be comforted by the slowly sweeping thumb caressing his own. "How long was I unconscious?" he finally asked, curious. 3 days, Wyatt admitted, frowning. Sensing he'd upset the man again, he tugged Wyatt's hand closer and kissed the knuckles on it. "I'll be just fine. I'm already feeling a sight better than when I made my way here," he soothed. "I know," Wyatt said, echoing his words from earlier. In the ensuing silence, they both heard the voices in the other room. "Kate's been here since I found you. Morgan showed not too long after. They'll want to see you once they know you're awake," Wyatt said, looking at the closed door. "Not yet," Doc murmured, pulling Wyatt down beside him. He wasn't able to move much, but it seemed Wyatt had gotten the idea and rolled onto his side, settling an arm across Doc's stomach gently. The warmth of the other man was a balm. He'd been so cold, tied to that chair, when he wasn't burning hot from the holy water. "I was so scared," Doc breathed, staring up at the ceiling, Wyatt's breath warm against his neck. Wyatt pressed a kiss to his shoulder, tightening his arm around Doc's stomach. "You don't have to say. Not if you aren't ready," he said quietly. Swallowing, Doc turned his head to the side, laying his cheek on top of Wyatt's head. "Made me drink holy water. Diluted it enough it didn't kill me outright, but Lord, it hurt," he murmured, voice shaky. He had to get it out now, so that when he saw everyone else later, there wouldn't be nothing amiss about himself. "Tried exercising me. Didn't believe me when I said this body is mine. That's what killed me, on top of everything else." He felt Wyatt exhale slowly, knowing it was the man's attempt to rein in his temper. "When I came back, I was so mad, so scared. The devil gave me a few gifts, sharper teeth and nails. I tore those men apart, ripped out their throats with my teeth, and I enjoyed it." He reached for the hand over his stomach, silently relieved when Wyatt tangled their fingers together without a word. "Did I ever enjoy it? I made sure they'd never be able to have me again. But by then, I'd exhausted any of the energy I had after coming back up. Finding my way back here was hard. That's why I landed so far off," he explained, focusing on Wyatt's calloused hand in his, the softness of his hair. Wyatt somehow pressed himself closer. For once, Doc wasn't even mad at the man for keeping his boots on in bed. "You made it back. They're dead and you ain't. It's all that matters." Letting out a sigh that threatened to turn into a cough, he found he couldn't argue. "I don't want to be alone, I think, for a while," he admitted softly, afraid to even think it, let alone say it. "People already think we're attached at the hip. It wouldn't matter if it's a little more time together," Wyatt mused, sounding drowsy. The sunlight streaming in explained why the man wasn't pacing in front of the windows, but not his exhaustion. "You haven't been sleeping, have you?" Snorting, Wyatt just shoved his forehead further into Doc's shoulder. "House is too quiet without you. Lonely. No reason to sleep without you with me." Softening, Doc settled a kiss into Wyatt's hair. "Romantic sap that you are. Rest with me a little while, before we let the rest of the brood in." Wyatt's sigh this time was decidedly one of relief. "You're too good to me," Wyatt groaned. "Give it a week. You'll change your mind again," Doc mused. He only got a sleepy hum in response, Wyatt well on his way to falling asleep already. He liked to say he never needed sleep, but Doc knew the man's body began to get worn out if he went too long. Comfortable for the first time in days, it was really no trouble to drift off with Wyatt, their hands clasped together, a heavy, pleasant weight on his stomach. He had his Eden back. He was safe. The end.